circulated amongst all the Amish, Mennonites, German Baptists, the plain people. And it's called, I think it's Stay Your Way or something like that's the name of this book. So if you want to be a part of it, you sign up. And if somebody's trying to go from Virginia to California, you know, you look in the book along the way, reach out to them. But so, and we traveled with my parents all over the country. I mean, Mom and Dad took us everywhere. That's all 8 of us.
Kind of like a Hey Wolf host,
but yeah, like he would be in that book, and you know, they would come stay in the cabin or whatever next door, and a lot of them there was zero charge. Some people had, but you left a donation or whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
And go anywhere you wanted to. But there ain't the Airbnb company somewhere ain't making shit tons of money. This was all done by each other, you know, and that's the most lovely thing about the German Baptists, like that kind of stuff. It was unbelievable.
It was a network before the internet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well,
very solid network.
I still say the GB hotline's faster than the internet.
Oh, yeah.
Something happens in the community.
They know.
I'm going to tell you right now, boom. It goes faster than the internet.
Every organization's got something like that. You got the military with the E4 Mafia, the junior enlisted who scuttlebutt conversation goes around before anybody else knows about it.
Just put your mic towards you just a little bit more. There you go.
Too.
Is that much better for you?
Yeah.
Do you like my sexy pipes?
There you go. That's working.
You mean that's recorded, Billy? I know what that means.
Yeah.
We've played this game many times.
We know that look.
All right, let's get serious and be clear.
Do we need to discuss any of that, or are we absorbed, or?
I could tell you, I did not pay attention to this. Did not give a fuck.
Simon Winch is swearing in somewhere.
Pardon my language.
Oh, you put yourself at the top.
Well, with the intro, it makes obvious sense because otherwise it's trivia.
Do you want to say the Pledge of Allegiance? Do you have a flag available?
Yeah, no, it's
Pledge allegiance to Appalachia.
there we go.
Here, we can put the sticker on the wall as a temporary flag.
There's a flag in here somewhere.
Mm-hmm. I know exactly where it is too.
It's somewhere. There's the one above the microwave. We kind
So,
of
Billy.
Yes.
It's all about you, brother.
What about me?
Q.
I can't take you serious with that hair. You look like a troll doll.
I love it.
Oh, my Lord. Well, on that, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Appalachian Podcast.
Oh,
We
no.
We are back in the Big Lick Roofing Mountain Studios. The Appalachian Podcast brought to you by Rife Technology that has, for better or worse, potentially cured Simon of cancer and for some way, shape, or form dropped his testosterone level down to almost zero with what he's wearing right now.
Yeah, it would appear that way. I don't know who planted this, actually, I do. But when I find stuff on my seat, there's normally only one person to blame. And I'm looking at him.
He's quiet right now.
Look at that. Won't even make eye contact.
There's something interesting.
Oh, there we go.
You can blame me every time if you want to. But I ain't never left nothing on your seat yet. I've just told people which seat's yours.
Oh, well, exactly. By association.
Well, we're back, ladies and gentlemen, and we have one heck of a show for you here today. We got Chip Slate, Be a Libertarian once again. Chip,
Hello. Good to be here.
nice of you to make your way up here on another very special Sunday afternoon show. And obviously, if you heard the man whose voice can carry a 60,000 person football stadium, the reason we are the #1 podcast in the German Baptist community. And if you're a subscriber, you get the early couple-minute intro where he tells a wonderful story about community and stuff like that. But Amos Denton.
Yeah, it's glad to be back up here.
And once again, probably the 6th or 7th time we've had him on the show, Smokey the Appalachistani.
Howdy, howdy.
Good to see you again. It's
Thanks for
been,
having me,
you
brother.
jumped on there for a few minutes, 4th of July, and we had a great show up in Floyd one year on the side of the mountain and had a handful of shows here before. If you go back and listen to the first State of Appalachia show we had, it was
15-hour
it
conversation.
was up here in the cabin and went on for quite a bit.
I think I was a bit naughty on that particular show, but there we go. Get used to it.
was a heck of a show. We got a great conversation here for you tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about the debate this past week, just a snippet, and potentially some of the moderators and whatnot, and a couple local events I want to jump into and remind everybody about, and a couple of announcements and whatnot. And then the big part of the show we're going to talk about is what a free and prosperous state of Appalachia actually looks like. We've been talking about this all week long. Smokey and Chip over there on X, and then sharing the stuff on Instagram to kind of just gauging people's interest, seeing what that region would look like, what it would comprise of, how we get there, and the possibilities, and what we should allow in and what we shouldn't, and things of that nature. It's going to be a really fun conversation. We've kind of touched on this before, some of our shows in the past, but we really haven't dedicated a show to it. We're just going to sit down and rock it out.
I thought the responses you got on your posts there were really good, and when Smokey did on Instagram too, they were thoughtful, and I thought they all kind of contributed to what we can talk about today.
There were several that I pinned and told them I was going to put their comment on because it wasn't, the stupid just like one word answer or like unrealistic stuff. People actually sat there and thought stuff. So I love that.
And read the whole article.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
There's something unusual.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So for all that, once again, Big Lick Roofing, big sponsor of ours, big shout out to him. I was hoping he'd make it up here tonight to hang out for a bit, but I think he said he was in Lynchburg, so maybe next week.
I've seen the DJ trailer roll out.
Oh yeah, could have been a roofing emergency for all we know, or a DJ gig. You said a DJ gig.
Yeah.
Oh, that must be what it is.
Those kids at Liberty know how to party.
I'm telling you what, he's going to be dropping down to that.
My brother-in-law's a student there.
They had a good win yesterday.
Did they?
Yeah.
I didn't pay attention to the
they had a
school.
good win.
Sorry,
it
David.
was I forget which team it was. It was a Texan team, El Paso. I don't know.
UTEP. Or
Anyway,
something.
whatever it was.
Well,
But
Texas Christian or TCU because they can't say Christian anymore, is it?
oh no, it wasn't them.
Y'all got me completely sidetracked. Anyway, Big Lick
Absolutely.
Roofing, and
I
of
told
course,
you not to do that, and I'm the one starting it.
and of course, Rife Technology, and we talk about that quite a bit because Matthew Rife, and check him out on X. He's back and forth with us quite a bit. He's got the Rife machine, which he so generously donated to Simon, and he walked out of this place a couple months ago and said 2 months you'll be cancer free, and like you said, the chemo doesn't kill it; it just reduces it,
and they couldn't find a trace of it in my colon last week at Sloan Kettering.
I mean, what a bigger endorsement. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you come up here and you say 2 months. That takes some balls, unless you're one of these people who just throws numbers out there because you think people are going to forget. And now 2 months later, here we are. So hopefully Matthew is going to be coming up here more often and whatnot, especially after we get the cameras going. Maybe once a month, one every couple months, quarterly, kind of like Smokey does with us, because he's just another addition to the great people we have.
Growing network.
In the Appalachian region, it's a phenomenal network growing.
It's a true honor, though, every time you guys bring me on here. Even if I'm just coming down to hang out with y'all at the wood shop or something for a little bit.
That's more dangerous.
I think I'm the
that
only
could
one
be
that walks
Trey.
away remembering the wood shop because I got to drive back up the mountain. But
I got to get a waiver drawn up for people that go to the wood shop.
No,
That's
I got a
just different.
backhoe.
Oh,
There you
cover
go.
it.
I've one of the listeners that
Smokey
listen to the
Dad
show a
Watch
bunch
Never
is
heard of
like,
him.
the state of Appalachia, that needs to be a series. She was like, that needs to be. She was like, I like that. Listen, it's good listening.
Yeah,
That's the
some
thing.
people love the Woodshop Chronicles. Some people love the State of Appalachia series. There's a lot of people like the Being Libertarian series. I mean,
That farming series. is
yeah,
always,
people really do
I
like
love
the
the farming
Appalachian
series.
Farmer.
You also have usually that comes out right after the next episode or season of Clarkson's Farm comes out. So I'm perfectly in farming
yeah.
mode at that moment.
Yeah, I'm getting some stick for Clarkson's farm now, but I love it. But
Great show.
we've got. I think I'm trying to line up 2 guest beef farmers locally that we all know very well. Hopefully we're going to get their perspective in the not too distant future.
Chocolate drop one, or sorry,
Mr.
Mr. Montgomery.
Actually, no, it isn't. It isn't Chris. It's a bigger beef producer.
Okay.
2 of the bigger producers, in Callaway.
Nice.
But and they're both fantastic characters. They both supported me in my times of trouble,
Awesome.
and just phenomenally good guys. But having them up would be another farming show that would be awesome because it would shed so much light on the mechanics behind what they do, and
Yeah.
it's and how they are prevented
Right.
from making their margin.
Well, the everyday person just sees cows in a field. They go, that must be really easy. You just put them in a field. You don't
Oh,
worry about
yeah.
them, and then you put them on a truck and send them off.
Yeah,
And
that's
no
not
one-
how that works.
Or you get the other people that are like, what do you mean you have to farm? The food is already wrapped at the food store.
Yeah.
Or grocery store, for
It's
those of you that don't
magic.
like the
Yeah.
food
They grow the cattle in the back behind the.
Yeah.
But anyway, go check out Rife Technology. He's on X quite a bit. That's where you can go back and forth with him. He'll be right out in the open and answer your questions, and hopefully we'll get him up here again very, very soon. And everybody else that helps chip in with this show, like Spike Cohen and You Are the Power. Make sure you're going and spending time with them. He's been doing a lot of things here lately with reuniting parents back that people have been. Had the government come in and take them away under just false pretenses and absolutely horrible, accusations that aren't true, and he's reuniting them, not to mention all the work he does here in Appalachia. So we thank him and all that. And then, of course, if you ever come into Rocky Mount, always swing by Rocky Mount Burger Company, Rocky Mount Smokehouse. I guess the Smokehouse has got some new digs in there now. I think they got a bar set up in there.
They're back open, yeah.
Yeah, back open, got the bar set up. So go in there and check him out and watch a game, get you a drink.
I'm supposed to get dinner from there tonight after this, so can't hold me too late.
Yeah, we'll go in there and
Hopefully they're open.
sit there and have your drink, watch a little bit of football, and while you wait on your order. Yeah, great. They're back open. And always like sharing and talking about on social media. People, hey, come to this town and check these things out. You can come stay 2 or 3 days, make like rural, local Appalachian town vacations, 4-day vacations a thing, and we've got some great people and great food. So even if you're just coming or passing by, make sure you're going by the Burger Company. I always like the sunrise burger with the egg and the bacon, and then I get a couple of wings because the sweet barbecue.
I ran
They're
into
always
Buddy
really
up
good.
at Living Proof
Oh yeah,
this week, and he's doing well. Living Proof. I joined their mug club,
Saw that.
which is great. Love it.
Yeah,
They supported me. I'm going to support them.
I can
that's
say
all
this
there is to it.
about small town Appalachia too, is if you come and spend your money here, you're going to have a cheaper time than going to an all-inclusive resort, and you're going to have more all-inclusiveness than going to an all-inclusive
Yeah,
resort. You're
absolutely.
gonna meet better people. You're going to do more, and you're going to go back with memories more so than I spent $1 a drink at the Mexican bar and don't really remember the rest of the time.
Next weekend's
You
Rocky
won't remember
Mount
the time
Fest.
here
Yep.
too if you
We'll
drink the
talk
right
about that.
stuff.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
exactly right.
And Simon will be a citizen by Rocky Mount Fest next weekend.
How about that?
Yeah,
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Congratulations, sir.
Yeah, it's all
congratulations.
good. It's all good.
And
At Poplar Forest.
I got an invite to this gig, and I'm going to drop my daughter off at school, and I'm booking it down to Bedford because I want to see this. I mean, I ain't never experienced it.
Mhm.
I want to see
No.
it.
What day are
It's
you
on
not
Tuesday.
a red coat anymore?
Yeah,
this Tuesday.
on Tuesday
God, I
at
don't know if
Poplar
I have time
Forest.
to take
Are you
off.
going to wear the red coat and like drop it off
You know
when
what?
they?
With an American
I
flag
thought-
shirt
I
underneath?
thought about that. It did cross my mind, being a particularly cheeky chappy.
Open it up with an American flag shirt on under.
Well, I should,
Hulkamania.
I know the one I wore on July 5th, too cool for British rule.
Nice.
Yeah.
He has thought about this.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought about
Well,
it. It crossed my mind.
Well, we've
But I thought,
discussed
no,
it.
I've got to be respectful. It's a swearing-in ceremony, and at Poplar Forest. I mean, the Jefferson connection.
Mhm.
It's
I really
Perfect.
honestly
Perfect.
thought I'd never see
Perfect.
this shake.
and Heather really pushed for it. I was
Neither
at
did
the
the
point
UK.
where we were, we got given a date, October the 4th, the courthouse in Roanoke. As luck would have it, that's when I'm going to get some radiation treatment up in New Jersey, Sloan Kettering.
Yeah.
So we had to do. We can't attend.
Mhm.
You've had this for 3 months since July the 9th, I think it was. And having said they were going to make the appointment within the week,
Mhm.
Yeah. So anyway, it all turned out wrong, and then thankfully Heather put the bit between her teeth and said, "Right, well, you know what? I'm going to speak to the lady at Poplar Forest. Normally, they only have a maximum of 30 people.
Okay.
She managed to persuade her to accept 31, 31
Nice.
of one being me.
Mhm.
Awesome.
So she got that set up, and then she finally managed to get through to USCIS. Oh my goodness me! I mean, I can
You could
understand.
have called up the border czar.
Oh,
Or, sorry, she's not
that's true.
that. Actually,
Yeah, no,
if you
she's
ask
not
her.
that. Oh no, she is. Oh yes, she
Sorry, I meant to
is.
derail you, brother.
No, that was all right. I threw in a bit of British pantomime there. For those that know, if you know, you know. So anyway, she got the bit between her teeth and finally got hold of USCIS and said, look, here's a situation. I've already set it up with the lady at Poplar Forest. Just make it happen. And amazingly, amazingly, they did.
It's great.
So it's a bit of a rush job, but yeah, I'm going to get sworn in at Poplar Forest. And Jefferson being
Something
Yeah.
to coincide with that. Before I say, though, the last person I wanted to shout out who's a big help and contributor to this show is Beth Preston and Beth Preston Photography. She comes to a lot of our events, came up here a couple weeks ago. Mike Termott helps out.
And Dennis.
Does phenomenal work. She can do phenomenal work for you, weddings, like scene photographs. She does a lot of our baby photographs and what do you call it?
Pregnancy photos.
Yeah.
she can be your personal photographer.
Yeah, she helps us out quite a bit.
You're not going to get anyone better.
No, very personable.
My biggest
very
regret
cool.
is that we didn't go with her for our pregnancy photos. Like the lady that did our stuff was great, but Beth knocked yours got stuff out of the water, man.
Yeah, she's really good. She's a big help on the show, and on top of that, Dennis at Country Boy Jamaican Chicken. He came up here a couple weeks ago and fired up the grill. And hopefully a lot of times in the future, when we have shows and we can make it kind of a Sunday thing, or even if it is a Tuesday afternoon thing, whenever we do it, for our guests, we get Dennis up here to fire up a grill. And we have a couple of people up here sitting around listening to the conversation and having a good time. And you can be one of those people listening to the conversation if you become a subscriber at patreon.com/get on tap for just $10 a day minimum. You can go to $5 a day or a month, $10. I mean, inflation's killing us all, but every subscriber gets an opportunity. We want you to be a part of this community, part of this network we're building here, and we need financial support to do it. We're all, working day jobs. Simon's been dealing with his stuff. I got a kid coming this week. So
Here, here.
Yeah,
On the very
yes.
same day as me.
I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that.
you're in
So yeah, I mean, we just had
That's gonna be
big
quite
shout
the
out to Caleb Floor, who's one of our biggest subscribers. I think he just made his way to New Mexico. I've seen some pictures. It's kind of like the Appalachia of out west. It's beautiful. He kind of knocked out of the park with wherever he's living at. Got him a new job. So I'm hoping with his raise, we're going to see an increase in his support each and every month.
Oh, touche, Billy.
He had an awful big smile though on those pictures
yeah,
of him
yeah,
out there.
He's also in a one-bar town.
Yeah,
That's
he
right.
is.
Now, there's a
they
lot of
can't get in
pressure
a lot
there.
of trouble. Brad Kenley's been on board quite a bit with
Can't get in a lot
Long
of trouble.
Solutions
He knows every single person in that town by their first name already.
already. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. 115 of them.
Yeah.
And then Holcomb Metalworks. Go follow him on Facebook, by the way, if y'all got a chance. He does really good work. Like kind of like what Amos does with wood, he can do with metal, and he's been a supportive show for quite some time, and I really enjoy seeing what all he can do. And Ryan Greer just became a huge subscriber, $15 a month. Look, you can get 15, you can get 10, you can get 5. Ryan, we'll get him on a show here soon with our musicians. I've been trying to get him, field musician Joshua Grice, Corey and Kyle and all them on one big show to have a big music show at the wood shop again. It's just getting musicians all together at once.
You really
is a
want
pain
all
in
that
me.
talent with Josh Grice, though.
Well, maybe he can learn a thing or two. Or maybe he can learn when it's time to just walk away. But either way, patreon.com/get on tap. It's really cheap, $10 a day, $3 a month. Please come on board. We need your help. It's helping us grow this thing in our network. And yes, now let's get to it. Yes, this will also be my last show as a 2-time father. The next time we get behind this mic, I will have a third child. And sure.
You ready for that?
Is
no.
anybody ready for that?
That's why I asked.
And she's getting induced on Tuesday, so I'm really needing her to hold off until Wednesday till she has it, because I don't need my child, because my first child was born on the day that we officially invaded Iraq, which is the day that really threw me for a loop. My second was born on April 16th, the day Cho went wild on tech, which affected Tara and my life because we were both up there. So now, if our child is born on the day he becomes a citizen, that might be a omen. That might be a bad omen of something bad to come.
Ta-da.
I didn't think about that yet.
Well,
Oh,
the
yeah, it's
two kids
priceless.
already have an accent, right? I mean, they've already got the British accent.
My
going.
son still
Drives a
calls it-
Lowry.
Yeah, he's
a
a
lorry. A lorry.
And he is a geezer.
he'll get upset if I call it a tractor trailer. So no, Daddy drives a tractor trailer. He'll get upset if I change the name of it. This is
Do
embarrassing.
you have to say things like "Let's go work underneath the bonnet" instead of the hood and stuff like that?
Quite
It's
right.
coming. It's
Absolutely
coming.
Go,
coming.
go put that in the boot and not the trunk.
That's right.
Yeah,
Take
you
it to
got
the garage.
The
Mhm.
garage.
The water closet.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to it then. Let's talk about what we're here for today. First off, because it's the big news in the week, before we get to the big discussion about Appalachia, which is what I'm excited about, let's talk about this debate real quick. And we'll start out with you, Simon, and then we'll go over to Chip and then to Smokey and and the rest of us, but what are your thoughts in the immediate after what you saw?
Well, I saw the debate and was quite frankly very disappointed by both performances. But I was really grated by ABC's moderate bias that was so blatantly apparent from the get-go. And it just left a foul taste in my mouth.
Kind of like a British meal.
Oh, man, we cooked some great grub.
Oh, yeah, the
But
beans and toast.
It did. It just, I mean, Trump was put on the defensive because he was fighting against three people, clearly. But that's a narrative that has been put out there, again, by the mainstream media. Kamala Harris allegedly has been pre-fed the questions, albeit as, hypothetical questions that you might get presented. That's still to unfold. So there's some collusion between the mainstream media, ABC, and
Some.
the debate people behind Kamala Harris. So, and that's to play out. It hasn't been substantiated, but it's clear it was clearly a setup, and that disgusts me. I mean, I don't care. A debate wasn't going to change my opinion either way, as it was probably the majority of people. If you vote Democrat, that wouldn't change your opinion. I'd like to think that her performance was an absolute disgrace because there was no policy behind it. There was no meat on the bone. But if you're going to vote Democrat, I can't help you. I mean, if that's your excuse because that's all my grandparents did or my father did, I've heard that story, right? I'm not going to insult you. But you should be insulted by what's going through my head now. As far as Trump's performance, petty. I mean, I need something a little bit more statesman-like in even in your rhetoric. At least be statesman-like about it. But the moderators, for me, has clearly that was the last death throw that we will see of legacy corporate mainstream media. That has just crashed.
Well, that's not journalism. I mean, there was nothing about journalists.
Exactly.
There was nothing about that.
No journalistic integrity whatsoever.
Well,
and then we look at the continued mainstream commentary after the event, and I nearly threw up. It was just like, what are you talking about?
Well, hasn't it come out recently that one of the female was her sorority sister in college, or they're in the same sorority?
She was her sorority sister, and right now there is an affidavit from an ABC whistleblower that is claiming that Kamala Harris's campaign was, in fact, given the questions ahead of time and said that they would not fact-check Kamala Harris, but they would, in fact, fact-check Donald Trump.
And that's a huge problem.
Now that's exactly what happened with Hillary. You remember back Hillary Donna Brazile gave her the questions and answers, the prime answers, and
nothing happened.
Oh no, that's the thing.
So
anytime
there was no
that happens,
consequence to being caught,
and so they do it again.
So you're going to do it again?
Well, is Kamala Harris going to really punish one of her employees?
Right.
But let's be honest. I mean, every one of us have seen, her at the microphone from the time she was in California, a senator, through being, every one of us have seen plenty. It was obvious to me from the moment the debate started that either she knew the questions. It was almost obvious to me.
Well,
it was literally that much different than everything else I have ever seen her do.
Well, and she didn't even really respond. Let's see.
Well, and that's the thing.
While he was on the golf course.
But now on the Trump side, it was obvious that he was flat irritated the whole time.
So according to Leading Report, which does breaking news stuff, I follow him on Twitter, 41 minutes ago, gunshots heard in Trump's vicinity. The former president is confirmed safe by his campaign. Gunshots were fired at the golf course while Trump was on the green. So are they taking their second best shot at him because they already took their first?
Well, Chip, answer me this. How much do you just kind of want to throw your phone or something at the TV when you're listening or watching? Because she opened herself up so many times to opportunities that I think, honestly, your average meme lord on Twitter would have threw it back in her face so much better than Trump did. I mean, who is advising him? Does it just go to show you that these people are so out of touch with reality? Because I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, if you would have been on stage against Kamala in that very moment, you would have absolutely destroyed her. And he just, It was nothing of substance.
Well, that's the problem, is that she did kind of get under his skin. And I mean, if you got 3 against 1 in a debate, you're probably going to get upset. That's natural. But then, he went off on topics that he really didn't need to go off on. And it's, I think there's a little bit of an insecurity there that he's got to overcome. And, we need to see that, because she was just repeating platitudes up there, like you say, not saying anything of substance, Simon. And so it's just, that's what we have.
She also did, in the last day or so, a solo sort of interview. I forget what network it was
ABC.
on.
ABC local station.
Yeah, and absolutely crashed.
What accent did she use?
Well, that's this. Where does she suddenly pick up a southern drawl? I can't get rid of this accent, even though it's been claimed as fake. I don't know how you pick up this southern drawl whilst you're making some ridiculous statement about unions and, just shut it.
Well, it's a playbook. Look, Hillary Clinton did the exact same thing.
Yes, she did.
She's following along the path. I mean, and that tells you how limited there is intellectually, any kind of intellect behind
they have
what
no
she says.
repertoire.
That's it.
Zero.
It's a playbook.
How do you get so many millions of people to not think it, like to not even
See through the scan?
process
Years and years and years of a public education
And
system.
television.
Yeah.
And social
And
media.
propaganda on television.
This is
And
the
video
biggest-
games
this
and
is-
and football
Yeah.
and baseball and distractions. As long as people are fed, as long as they are fat and happy, they will never revolt.
Everybody wants
And the
their
problem
2
is they
sentence
have
Twitter
just
clip to tell them what the
overplayed
news
their
is.
hand, and they tried to dip in the cookie jar a little too deep and not realizing there's a ton of Americans out here that really aren't as pathetic as they like to make us out to be. So now they're caught between a rock and a hard place.
Well, I think we're currently under one of the greatest propaganda schemes that the globe has ever been put through. Now, and it is global. Don't think it's just exclusive to the US. This is a propaganda scheme of global proportions.
and it all stemmed from everybody all across the globe, governments figuring out how easy it was to control the people or change rules over COVID.
That was the playbook.
And on the flip side of that, it
Over
also
Michigan.
made a lot of people see that we need to tighten up local communities. So it's a double, but it has definitely changed. Like, the Democrat Party figured out, hey, Biden could sit in his basement, never do an interview, do this, and
Or
still
sit on the beach.
we can get him elected. Now,
Who's running the country now? There's
same
some
people have been-
crazy woman who can't hold
nobody.
can't string a sentence together, and then there's numbnuts just chilling out on the beach.
It's the
Well,
same
who's
people that's been
running?
in charge the entire time he's
Oh,
been elected.
Exactly.
I don't think for a second that anything that's happened over the past 4 years was his doing. It's every single one of his staffers that came out of the public education system
Pentagon.
and public university
Pentagon.
system.
So the average public worker with their paid vacation across the board in America, it would take 48 years of working to be on vacation as many days as Joe Biden
Well,
has.
he's 247 years old. You got
in
to
his
give him
term.
a couple.
And
of
what did you
days.
think about him putting the Trump hat on? Did you see that?
Oh, I thought it was beautiful.
Do you think he knew that he put a Trump hat on?
That's not
Well,
for a second.
yeah, we don't really know. We don't really know.
I think he
Not for a
does.
second.
I think he dislikes Kamala more
Well,
than he dislikes
There's
Trump.
a lot of evidence pointing towards that, because then he had a red hat in his hand going up the stairs to the
Well, was that
airplane.
him because he didn't stumble going up that flight of stairs?
Well, if he had a Trump hat, right, he had the power.
Did he really take it with him?
Oh well, it was a red hat.
And it was a
red hat.
didn't
You
see
couldn't
the
see what
front
it
of
was, but I mean, he's got to know the optics of that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to know the optics.
Well, he did
No, they
that.
don't.
He did that shit-eating grin, that smirk that he does every time when he gets caught in a lie or doing
Right.
something he's not supposed to. He did that
Well, and I looked back at Jill Biden's Twitter, which
Yeah.
just when he was, as they say, forced out of that position, she's maybe posted one time
Was it
and has
coup?
not said a thing about the Kamala Harris campaign.
It was
Not
a
the
coup.
first drip.
She has not received one vote to be the presidential
Yeah, no, I
nominee
agree.
candidate
Mhm.
for the Democrats.
And I honestly, that is the most disturbing to me
That's a
over everything.
constitutional
Well, he-
crisis in the making.
Yes.
Here's the real question to that.
And
though.
I'd actually like your comments on this, Chip, because the constitutional element, the constitutional crisis about how she basically cooed her way in to that ticket is going to be a problem, particularly when there is a transfer of power after the election, whoever wins.
Right.
Well,
There's going to be a massive constitutional crisis problem.
let's say, fairly or unfairly, she wins the ticket. She becomes the next president of the United States.
God help us.
Do you think that they're going to remove her in favor of Tim Walz, who they decided that would be their vice presidential candidate, and they just needed Kamala to do that transition?
Wasn't that
because
the
they
same
couldn't get
policy
any-
they applied with Biden and Kamala?
Well, they couldn't get
That
any of the money
ticket?
from the Biden-Harris campaign to go to Tim Walz if Kamala wasn't on it.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
who's to
that's
say that they're not going to 25th Amendment her the second she gets, sworn in and be like, oh, yes, I do. And then, oh, by the way, here's your paperwork. Go sit in the fucking corner while we put our new president in charge who's going to say
Well,
that,
if
what was it,
it's
another
easy-
man's socialism is just neighborly fucking... Yes.
If it was
Yeah.
that easy to dispose of the sitting president,
Mhm.
and in all honesty, that is super scary.
Sure it is. Well, they didn't do it with a bullet this time.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Did I say that out loud?
Well,
They
if-
really should make RFK.
If they know they're
the
dealing with
CIA.
somebody that'll put a Trump hat on at a rally, they don't necessarily need a bullet.
Well, I mean, she even said in the debate, she said, I'm a gun owner and we're not going to take your guns. Nobody wants to take it. And then 2 days
Fastest
later in the
football
interview,
ever.
she turned around and said something completely different. I mean, these people are straight lying to your face. They don't care anymore. They don't care what you think. They don't care what you believe. All they care about is absolute power. And you need to make the decision on your own for yourself, for your family and community. Are you going to just march in lockstep with this tyrannical regime, or are you going to stand up? Because at the end of the day, those are our options. Are just boiling down to this is getting absolutely ridiculous.
Well, it's hard to believe we actually have a president now who's actually advocating for shrinking the government.
Yeah.
We've got one that's advocating for cutting actual departments from his cabinet, and
And that's beautiful. I think that's
amazing.
beautiful.
No, it is beautiful, and that's it's just crazy that's where we are, and people are still, thinking that might
Well,
not be the
Hollywood's
way to
already
go.
told us what'll happen if he gets rid of the FBI. They have a whole movie about it called The Civil War.
And
Right.
they got into the whole abortion thing in the debate, and I feel like Trump. Oh well, I didn't. I mean, it was bad. I mean,
I think he explained himself quite eloquently.
I'm
and-
saying like it was just obvious to me that he knew that I'm fighting with both hands tied behind my back.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't want to be here. Anybody that's going to vote for me is
Already
going to vote
Yeah.
for me. And
Yes, but if he just sits there and doesn't completely screw it up, he will allow her to just run herself into the ground because a sharp tongue will eventually slit its own throat. And all he's got to do is, like he did with the Biden, just sit back and let her not say what she's supposed to say,
would
and
just
not do
laugh
what she's
herself
supposed
off
to
the
do.
stage.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly.
She'll
The
mess
more she talks, the more she's going to screw up. He doesn't have to do anything special anymore. He's not going against anybody with competency. Like Hillary, for better or worse, Hillary was dangerous.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Hillary was
Still
good.
is.
And she
Still
was a
is.
statesman, and she knew. Kamala has... She is the
She has
epitome
nothing.
of does not belong
Nothing,
there.
yeah.
Slept her way to the top. Has no idea what she's doing. She cannot compete on this level.
She
like
can't
this
keep
is
staffers, according to James O'Keefe's undercover with that, where he wore
yeah.
glasses
Nobody
and
wants to
kept
work
going
for her.
on
She's
dates with
just
gay men. They were like,
Biden's
she can't hold on
incompetent
to staff.
because of neurological reasons. She's just incompetent because she's just incompetent.
So she's Xanaxed up to her eyeballs. I mean,
well,
how functional would you be if you were too?
as whatever the DA of California locked up thousands of people for marijuana offenses,
And parents for truancy of their
and then
Kid.
goes on a show when she's running,
Mhm.
and I smoked weed. Now wait a minute,
Oh, yeah.
come on,
Mhm.
that ain't
Yeah, when,
right.
when Tulsi Gabbard
Mhm.
fucking executed her on stage.
Beautiful
So
thing.
Dennis, me and Dennis was having a big conversation about politics, and he was like, in 2016, I never seen a Trump sign in the ghetto,
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
Boston, Roanoke.
Mhm.
He was like, in 2020, you've seen a few.
Mhm.
He said, now, 24, you see more people talking about Trump. There's more people in the black communities that he is around that are talking about Trump, or, then he's like, there's more excitement in the black communities for Trump now than I have ever seen.
Mhm.
And that gives me hope.
From all just like the clips, I'll preface this by saying I didn't watch the debate. I got a 3-month-old. I'm not staying up past 9 o'clock.
You can't,
I get
yeah.
up at 4 for work.
Well, you're doing well at
Uh,
9.
Yeah.
Is she sleeping through the night?
Hell no.
Emily gets her up once a night.
Okay.
That's perfect.
She decided that she wasn't gonna let her sleep through the night because 4-month is coming along and there's sleep regression there. So she gets her up once. There's also something to deal with she read some study where it's if you let infants sleep through the night, they're more susceptible to having SIDS.
Mm-hmm.
So she wanted to, if
Yep.
you get them up
Interrupt
at
it.
least once, I think it decreases it by like 80% or
That
something.
makes sense.
Wow.
Oh.
That's a huge statistic.
Oh, it's massive.
And
So I will tell you this right now.
breastfeeding is also a massive in SIDS.
Oh yeah,
That's
so
true.
so that's what we do. I'll give her a bottle, but
We
it'll
do.
be- it'll-
Like you too.
yeah. Well, I mean, I told you I got fat, but so she'll breastfeed her and stuff like that. I'll give her a bottle of breast milk. We don't do any of the formula stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If
My
you
wife is a
didn't, if
great
you
mother.
didn't, if you,
It's wonderful.
if I say you, if you were not to choose to breastfeed your child,
Mhm.
the statistic is out there that you potentially can. I'll put it another way round. Actually, I'll reverse that.
Mhm.
You gain 10 IQ points
Yeah,
by breastfeeding.
yeah. I've heard
Not
that.
to mention that all the immune system
Yeah.
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Well, so like
Your
I'll
natural,
preface this by
your
saying-
natural virus shots, maybe.
So I will
That's
correct what I
exactly it.
said. I sleep through the night. My wife wakes up in the middle of the night. She is a true champion. Great mother. I love her to death. Love my daughter to death. The amount of stuff that she's found out, though, like the fact that your body or her body will figure out what our daughter needs.
Mhm.
So, like all summer long, you have more of a watery breast milk apparently, but now that fall's coming in, we notice that it's not as watery. It's a little bit thicker, and she'll drink less of it because she's getting more out of it. But your body will naturally accommodate to what your child needs. And the other thing I found out was really interesting. Apparently, for all you that are going to be new fathers again, if your kid's shooting up in temperature, one of the fastest ways to help regulate their temperature is have them lay skin to skin on your wife.
Yep.
Apparently, that regulates their temperature out for whatever reason.
It's wild.
Like I said, I'm a new father, so finding out all this, I'm like, holy shit, that's really amazing.
Yeah.
This is a good opportunity to segue, because one thing I did want to talk about, since you are here, a couple of weeks ago we did a show. We were talking about a local doctor who was accused of some pretty horrific things.
Yes.
And it ended up being one of our more listened to shows here recently. A ton of people wanted to tune in, and we give our opinion on things, and obviously understand that they're all allegations. But there is always two sides to every story. And actually, Smokey has reached out to us, and come to find out you were actually a patient.
Yes, our daughter was a patient of a patient at New Beginnings Pediatrics, or maybe I shouldn't say that she currently is still there, but maybe edit that. But she was a patient of Dalton Rennick. He was our pediatrician. Met him day after we left the hospital. Really personal guy, exact age as I am, like maybe a month difference, but he's 32. Our first thoughts on him actually were like, this guy's gay. He's not like derogatory, but he just has kind of that vibe about him. He expresses himself a lot, but then he starts talking about his wife and his children. So we're like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Well, so we never noticed. I'll preface this: we never noticed. He never said anything that was inappropriate to it. The only thing that out of that whole document, like I told you when I read it, it read off like he was a frat boy that became a doctor and was still a frat boy in his mind, saying stuff like that.
Inappropriate.
Well, yeah. So like,
Just poor language.
right, poor language. Like,
Well, no, I'm not talking about the elements of his conversation that have been publicized,
yeah.
but in interactions with the general public.
So
and
we never
his
noticed that
clients.
he never dropped an F-bomb in front of us, but he would curse in another way where he was a little cocky, but he never came off as like too forward, too creepy. He just came off as like,
or perverted.
yeah, exactly. We
Right.
never got that vibe from him.
Yeah.
The only thing he ever told us, he said that your daughter holds your head up really well because she's got no neck, which we just laughed at because she doesn't have much of one. And that went along with the comments that I laughed at, where it was like he told the one patient that their kid's head was so big they weren't going to fit through the door, or he had the Asian nursing student with them. And they walked in the room and the kid started crying, and he looked at the Asian and said, "Oh, it's probably because I've never seen an Asian before." Like I'm gonna admit, I genuinely laughed when I read that, but then I got to the meat and potatoes of that whole thing where he said that
Yeah.
babies smell so good that
Yeah.
it makes him want to.
Let's not
Yeah.
repeat it. But
So I never got that vibe from him. He was always extremely professional and courteous. The other thing I've noticed though is that when all that came out, because we got hit with the information pretty much the same day as y'all did. It was that Saturday afternoon. We were at Emily's father's, and we were sitting in the car, going to the food store. We were like, what the, absolute hell. And so reading it, it was fine up until we had those 2 comments. And I was like, yep, he's not going to be our doctor again. And then I read the magic words that he lost his medical license. So now we're trying to figure out what to do. Long story short, noticing a lot of people commenting on it, that they were patients of him as well, and they never got that vibe from him. They never heard him say anything like that was, unprofessional. The other thing I noticed was all the F-bombs that he dropped, people complained about, was when he worked at Carillion, before he worked at New Beginnings when he got fired. So I don't know if he had cleaned up his act on his commentary a little bit, and then when he got to New Beginnings, felt a little too comfortable as their head doctor. Now, I'm not trying to defend the man in this aspect or not.
Yeah. Now just give Simon a warning for the purple smoke.
Here comes the purple smoke, Simon. So we're,
Maybe he can take his hat off a little bit and let it.
Simmer.
He's got the purple hair. Where's the purple hair?
Yeah.
Put the purple hair back on.
So I'm going to preface this by saying that doing research on vaccines isn't amount to saying that we are pro or anti-vax. For any of the listeners out there, don't want to throw you off by that, but do your own research, look into stuff. It's not going to hurt, and then talk with your doctor. Make your own decisions. That's my personal opinion. I'm not saying don't get them or do get them. But I will say that there's a website out there that the U.S. government publishes that you can look up, and you find out that doctors, pediatricians, nurses, nurse practitioners, and medical facilities all receive a check from the U.S. government per patient that is fully vaccinated. And I don't remember I think it was $40,000 or something like that we were chatting about. For every 100 patients that are fully vaccinated, that includes the flu vaccine, they will receive $40,000 to that individual that was involved in that process.
Whoa.
I will find the link to the website. My wife has it. And maybe Billy can toss it into the show notes if you want to find out what your doctors are or are not getting. So, New Beginnings Pediatrics, every single doctor there, except for Dalton Rennick, when he was a doctor, was receiving grant money for full vaccinations. Mm-hmm. He was the only one that wasn't, and never once did he push us to get a vaccine. We told him we were going to hold off on Hep B because our daughter was, she was having not really a medical issue, but we thought she had a cold or something at the time. So he said, all right, no problem. If you want to do it, let me know. We'll schedule it later on, but no pressure.
Didn't punch it.
He didn't push vaccines. And this is where the purple smoke comes out. So reading that whole document from the medical review board, it came out that first comment about babies came from one patient. And then the second one came out after they found out that the first one had been said. Oh yeah, he said that to me too. So here's the conspiracy thought, and you can probably see where I'm going with this. What if, since he was the only one that didn't push for this, they pushed him out, and didn't just push him out, but pushed him out in a way so he wouldn't only be a doctor ever again in the New River Valley, but would never hold a medical license again because no one would trust him.
Because you're saying because he wasn't pushing
vaccines. Now, that actually throws a very different light
I agree with
on this subject.
When I talked with Billy, I do agree with one part of this, where if that was the case, though, you think he'd be shouting from top of every building.
I would feel like there'd be coworkers that were
you saw what coworkers did in 2020 when they said, either get it or potentially lose your job. A lot of coworkers will step in line because they need that paycheck.
It's a small practice. Like anytime we were there would only be 3 or 4 other staff that we would ever
was Carillion.
It was New Beginnings Pediatrics. I think they're separate Carillion, but they were in front of Lewis Gale. But it wasn't attached.
So it wasn't
like you came out of Lewis Gale and, hey, this is New Beginnings by Lewis Gale. He also had bought the practice recently and was their head doctor and brought on all those other staff.
I'd love to get him on the show.
Like, I do want to dig into it more and be like, hey, like, it could be a case also where he's not speaking up because he could be suing.
Well, now he's obviously got,
under a gag order or some
legal. So absolutely.
Before I dig more into that, I would like to know, be like, hey, you could be honest with me. I'm not going to kill you if you said anything like this, but did you say these words? I just want to know. And if he tells me, no, I didn't, then I would like to look more into it. If he says, yes, I did, then I'll be like, okay, well, best of luck to you. I hope you find whatever help you need. The thing that I brought up to my wife when reading this is when he had his medical review board, They asked him if he had said these comments, and according to the review board paperwork, it says, yes, I did. But what if he didn't actually?
Yeah,
What if because all it is a transcriber? Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and it's a private session because it's dealing with doctor-patient confidentiality, so it's not an open public hearing. You know, if you did that, you'd have to
rely on him. You'd have to rely on him to come out.
It comes down to a he said, she said. I think
that could be the ultimate hatchet job.
But if it's a private, I mean, if it's a private clinic, what is it like a?
It was like almost in a strip mall building.
Birthing clinic. I mean, like what kind of?
No, so he was a full pediatrician, so he had there'd be patients in
so like women, women's children or something.
So we, I think you were out of the room when I said this. We saw him. We were making appointments. He was the only one in the area that was, taking on new patients right after our daughter was born. And I think it was the day or maybe 2 days after we had brought our daughter home that he wanted to see her. So he saw her 3-4 times, I want to say, before then. And I was present for all but one of them, but my wife said even the one that I wasn't, he was professional. It may have also been that I carried a gun every time, and maybe I was printing hard, and maybe my wife also dropped that she's in law enforcement, so maybe that had something to do with it. But from my personal experience, I never saw anything that
there's more to it than meets the eye.
Yeah, I think that there is something more to it.
I mean, another family friends of ours, I mean, he was their doctor, and they said the same thing, that they loved him.
Our daughter just turned, she'll be 4 months in a couple of weeks, but
what I'm saying is if that's a small clinic, it ain't, I don't know why that, if it's a 4-doctor clinic, why would they be pushing, why would they go do something like that to get him out?
Money.
$40,000 per person.
Yeah, but if it's a 4-doctor clinic and you got one doctor that is kind of like that again, he's actually bringing in new patients.
Hang on, is it $40,000 per 100 or 40,000?
So it's
yes, but does that make up the difference?
Or per 100 patients, I believe. But
I would say yeah.
I don't know if that payment is going directly to let's say Dr. Dalton Rennick or to New Beginnings Pediatrics, because if it's a case where, so he, like I said, he started the practice. They were getting ready to change the name. They probably will now after all this came out.
The doctor, the Rennick guy, he started that practice.
So he bought it. It had like either just closed or was about to close. He bought it, fixed it up. They were working on changing their name, and then he was their chief pediatrician. And like I said, he's my age, 32. So I mean, he's not an old guy. I mean, that photo that y'all saw, by the way, that's not what he looks like. He doesn't have like the long curly hair, but he does have a mustache, and that's what made me think like, you got a limp wrist, don't you? But I don't know. It could be that he is just a sick, twisted, individual that needs treatment, or it could be something,
way more nefarious.
Yeah.
Well, the point is, people should at least keep an open mind about things and anything. If this isn't a prime example, just what we were talking about in the previous segment with the election and all that, nothing is really what it seems, and people will lie straight to your face, and people do it for different reasons. Some are malicious, some are doing it for monetary reasons, some both. So just,
and that's the problem. Nobody thinks for themselves. During the debate, the moderators, you don't need to fact check somebody. I got a God-given brain, and in 2024, well, you have the tools to figure out what you think. So let somebody say their answer. Now I can clearly know that, there's 9 states at least that will allow abortion as it's being born abortion. You don't need to fact check one on that.
I will throw in a wrench to your statement here, though. Remember what the wonderful George Carlin once said: figure out how dumb the average person is, and then remember 50% of them are stupid.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's a tragic statement.
Which is, by numbers alone, there's no way around it.
Yeah.
Unless you wanted to raise the average IQ, which is possible, but they're still going to be
too many
dumber.
people, like we said, they would rather just read the 10-second blurb headline that comes across on on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. And that's going to create their politics for the whole day. Whatever news source they get their info from, they're going to see that headline. They're going to be like, that's all I need to know. I got too much shit going on.
But that's really not even news.
Right. Yeah,
it's somebody's spin.
Yeah.
Of something.
Media fact-checking can never work because you can never trust the arbiter to be non-biased.
Who fact checks
it can never.
Checkers.
Exactly.
So you think about all the perks the media gets because they're the media.
Yeah.
The
And,
protections.
you know, we don't,
So, yeah,
Now-
continue. I'll tell you a story after.
that is the only thing that keeps politicians honest is the media. That's it.
Used to be
Right.
That's right.
the highest.
Well,
award
well,
for the CIA
without a honest media, there's no way to have even a close to honest government.
Mm-hmm.
the highest award for journalism used to be assassination by the CIA, and now it's you get to go moderate the debate.
And that's the problem. When you have the entire media obviously throwing their weight one way, you know, at that point, you know, that it's over.
Well, and it's proven they're working in concert with the government.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
at their
They're
behest.
one and the same.
Well, not
Operation
necessarily the
Northwoods.
government, but
Mhm.
maybe the
Mhm.
CIA.
Mm-hmm.
And look at all the guys that have been thrown out of the mainstream media that are now doing their own thing, and it's bizarre how centrist and right wing those people are. I'm talking about Glenn Beck. I'm talking about
And
Tucker,
censored.
I'm talking about Tucker Carlson. I'm talking
James
about
O'Keefe with Veritas and now O'Keefe
Yeah.
Media Group.
What's is it Charlie Kirk? What's the guy?
Who's doing the college campus stuff?
Yeah, like
yeah.
is it?
Turning point.
yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
dude.
Let-
That might be my hero.
Let me give you a quick
I wish I had his
story.
balls,
So
but
some of y'all know the blog that I put out occasionally, Smokey's Fireside Chat. Late last year, I put out an article called "The Man Behind the Curtain," and I was investigating a militia group that was based out of Tennessee called the Appalachian Rangers. Just because I had lots of friends that had joined it,
Mhm.
told me weird stuff that was going on. If you're interested, go ahead and read it. It was all. I looked into the man behind the curtain that was leading them, and within my first article being dropped of it, he disbanded his entire group, fell off the face of the earth. So that was kind of funny. But
Oh.
I had a lot of investigative journalism that I did in it, where I had to contact sheriff's office, you know, law enforcement agencies, even forestry companies, asking different questions. And if I called up as, "Hey, I'm Smokey the Appalachistani," and gave him my real name and was asking about something, they'd be like, "Here's a FOIA request. You know, we don't want to talk to you."
Yeah.
All I'd do is, "Hey, I'm Smokey. I'm an independent journalist. You know, I'm doing a an article on this." As soon as I said the word independent journalist, every agency that I ever contacted, "Oh, how can we help you, sir? What do you need?" I was like, "Hey, if I need to FOIA any of this information, make it official, that's fine." No, we'll just send it to your email. It's fine. They work hand in hand with the media. They don't care.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and they're banking on that.
Mhm.
They know that.
Because, oh, hey, I'm going to possibly make them look good by saying, "Nope, we had nothing to do with this guy."
Right.
Yeah,
Especially when you contact a law enforcement agency and say one of their alleged former members is a militia leader. They're like, "Oh, what?" So,
Yeah, we'll help.
Yeah, I remember reading that article. But yeah, just say going back to the doctor, just do your own research and don't take things with a grain of salt, and don't subscribe to the mob mentality
Mhm.
so quickly, because you never know, and that mob might turn on you in a second. So you need a bunch of people out
yeah.
there
Ju-
that realize you're not that type to have your back in these moments, because
Tell
it's
them
easy.
also just remember, like, you know, just doing your own research doesn't mean that you need to say that you're 100% against something or 100% for something. There's like any conversation, there's a middle ground.
well, if you say you're 100% against or for something, you ain't got any research.
Exactly.
Well, I know real quick before we do dive into the next one, this weekend coming up is the Rocky Mountain Fest, the 151, I do believe. So if you're listening to this, make plans, come down on Saturday, walk around, hang out. There's about 16 different bands playing. Crawford and Power, our buddies, are headlining it. So go down there and check him out. I think they're going to be at the market stage, maybe.
They got several stages going to be set up.
Yeah, but I think they're going to be at the market stage at the end. So it was a great event last year. It's supposed to be even bigger this year. You can go walk around downtown. There will be vendors set up. You can always drop by Rocky Mountain Burger Company, Anastasia's. It's Rocky Mountain Fest, I think. 151 Fest.
151.
Yeah, the Rocky Mountain 1. So it's going to be a really good time. Come hang out. I'm not going to be able to make it because I'll probably have a day or two old baby, which is going to be neat. I'm incredibly excited about that. So Simon will be an American citizen next time we come back, and I'll have a new child, and I'm super excited about it. If it wasn't for Claire, I would have never started this show, honestly. And you know, if it wasn't for the show and trying to excite people about, you know, taking these others, you know, who knows if Benji would ever be here, or now our third. So everything kind of plays in hand, and you know, I've had a really fun ride so far. 2 kids has been amazing, and the third I'm super excited about. adding to the mix.
Do y'all have a county fair in Franklin?
Yeah, the Rocky Mountain Ag Fair.
Okay,
They
yeah.
usually have it down there at the recreation park. It's
I
pretty
asked
neat.
because we just had ours in Patrick County, and it was incredible. It just you go back and see all these people you haven't seen for years, and
We just had
on the
Floyd's
same place.
yesterday, and super proud of my wife. She was nervous. She wanted to enter in the pie competition.
oh, nice.
She took first and second grandmaster place in pie, first place in.
Oh, I
relish
am the
and
pie man.
What
yeah.
kind of
I
pie?
love
Blue
pies.
ribbons.
She made I think it was her lemon chess pie that took first, and
Man.
second was pecan pie. Her zucchini relish won, grandmaster, I
Can you
think.
get her to make a
Does-
cherry?
Does she like to be on podcasts?
Oh, let me see.
So she actually has her own. She actually has her own. She hasn't done an episode in a while, but she did 4 episodes on Appalachian Revival where she talked about Chickens 101 because that's her
Perfect.
whole degree. I told her one time she needs to come up here. Now that we got the 3-year-old, maybe we'll have a whole party. Put all the tykes in one playpen and watch them
That's it.
go
Let
at
'em
one
go, yeah.
another.
Have at it.
I'll just bring my daughter. She
There you
loves
go.
being a mama.
Perfect.
There you go.
Oh,
Perfect, man.
You'd be golden till she started crying or something.
But I was super surprised because I'm not surprised. I knew she's a great chef, but she dropped off everything on Friday. Super nervous. I'm like, "You're gonna do great, honey," and I'm like, hopefully she, at least gets a ribbon. She calls me yesterday, so I won first place in all but the salsa, and then I won second place in the salsa.
Nice.
So
Well, that's perfect, and that's that's a tough crowd. That's
Yeah.
a seriously tough crowd in Floyd to be going against for
Absolutely.
infections.
Yeah, you're going against country people and
Mhm.
hippies.
oh yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, country people got it
That's right.
traditionally, and hippies just don't have anything else to do but learn how to cook.
that's exact.
Perfect their craft.
She decided that morning the entries were due that she wanted to enter, and made all her stuff that
Knocked it
day
out.
and dropped it.
How about that?
Wow.
That's beautiful.
That sounds
That's
like
how to do it.
that's like a TV show. It's
Mhm.
like
There we go.
Well,
There was
Off
one
from scratch,
person I didn't
crust and
mention
Well,
that everyone should be listening to. Megan Kelly
Same morning.
Mhm.
has found her wings.
I think you're right.
And let me tell you, I'm here when Heather listens to Megan Kelly.
And her cuss words. I like her
And-
when she
and-
cusses.
She's got freedom.
Didn't she just promise something about Jeffrey Epstein?
Oh yes, she did.
That could be
Something's
wild.
coming out.
That
It's
could be-
coming. The Jeffrey Epstein stuff. She's onto something. And brace yourself when it does land.
She better have that on like a
Didn't she take a job with MSNBC?
post
Is she
every
no longer
20
with
minutes or
them?
something.
No,
to
no.
find a refresh.
NBC.
They're
Oh,
gonna
she
kill
got-
her
she's now
off for more
independent.
posts.
She
She
made
killed
like
herself.
Yeah.
$30 million to work like 4 days.
Mm.
Mhm.
They tossed her.
Because the lefties made that much of a stink.
Well, she's well worth listening to. There is an
Oh, dude, I've
independent voice.
always loved her.
Yep. And I'm staggered with how brutal she is.
Mhm.
I love it.
It's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
It is. You need that.
Well, again, Rocky Mountain Fest, attend that this weekend. It's going to be on Saturday all day long. Go listen to some good music, good food, vendors. I wish we could be.
Crawford and Power.
Yeah, they're going to be closing the night out. I wish we had a tent set up and we could, have people coming and hanging out. We're going to start getting that stuff going just as summer's been difficult for obvious reasons and having a newborn and trying to talk my wife and allowing me to do a show up here and one somewhere set up all day long. It was the easiest thing in the
Good
world
luck,
to do.
brother.
And I feel like I could be able to call on somebody like Amos to pitch in and help plead my case, but she would just shoot him down too. And he'd probably just tell her I'm ignorant for even trying it anyway. And
I could have saved you all this mess. There's a sign in my wood shop that explains it clearly. You just don't read good.
well, so yeah, it'll be a good time. I wish we could make it, but everybody go, show up, hang out, spend money, be merry, drink a beer. I think it's one of those events where you can walk around with a beer in hand.
Oh, they got,
So-
because they got like 6 stages or something different. I know
Mhm.
Kyle, Tin Can, Locomotive, they're
Yep, they'll
playing.
be playing. I
The
think
Works are playing.
I can say this as someone that just had to do with the Christiansburg food truck rodeo yesterday with all the drinking that we had there. Go to these events because the worst thing for those employees working it is showing up and you sit around for 7 to 10 hours and nothing happens and no one comes. Go support your local businesses,
So-
support your local communities.
Dennis set up at Living Proof the other night, whatever, and said, didn't make crap. Like, went to Christiansburg.
Yeah.
He said he made $3,000 yesterday.
I believe it. There was a line like I
Made
looked
less
at
than
his food
500
truck. It was
Living
line
Proof.
across the street.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That was hurtful.
And that
Oh,
we had a
that's a
big
shame.
one too. We had 23 food trucks. Well, 22 food trucks out there yesterday.
But that's what he was like, dude. He said, I ran out of food. He's like, I could have
Mhm.
made more money.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Oh, his food's
He was
amazing.
like, he sold, what did he say? I thought 60 pounds of oxtail.
Oh my Lord.
Good Lord.
Now, I don't know why. I don't even know what you would eat. I don't even know how you eat that.
Oh, I do.
I'm
Yeah,
not.
no,
Simon
I do.
knows.
Oh, I do.
I've got swapped in the face with
I ate this
a
in the
dirty
bush
tail
in
on a
Angola
cow a
and
lot
ate
of
before.
times, but I ain't never
That's what
decided
oxtail means to you.
what's this.
Oxtail is heavenly when it's cooked right.
And after Susie done swapped you with that tail about 4 mornings in a row, you took that tail and you tied it to the board beside her. So when she went to swish it, she ripped the end of it off and shortened that thing a little bit so you could milk in peace without getting smacked.
That's right, Susie.
That's why we're number one right there.
In
don't
the
get
German
those-
Baptist
I don't get those
community.
stories anywhere else.
Oh,
They're
my
just
God.
not, and not with that kind of passion and excitement either.
Because you don't forget it.
No,
Have you ever went skiing behind the cow?
Oh,
Don't.
Lord. Don't.
Don't.
Do that. Don't do
It was
that.
beautiful. Because the manure on the concrete slick, so you can you get them in the morning, you can grab the cow, the last one in line, grab her tail, and you just lean back like you're water skiing on your rubber boots. You can ski and slide all the way through the barn,
You ain't
all the way
right.
to the front.
You are not
Yeah,
right.
you need therapy.
You are not right, Amos.
Me and Jeremiah were skiing in one morning, and all of a sudden that cow that he was skiing behind coughed.
Oh, no.
Oh, gee. See, that's why you don't do that stuff.
Don't do it.
My goodness.
This is wintertime. We're in insulated bibbed overhauls.
Oh gosh.
And that cow coughed and it hit him right below the chin in a full shot. And by the time we got in the barn, he peeled his boots off and it was manure running out the bottom of his bibs into his boots.
Thanks for the visual, Amos.
Gracious.
Good.
Well, he had to give a good one for all the city people that listen to this stuff that have no
Yeah.
idea what just occurred.
Oh,
I
my
just-
God. Hell,
I
don't
just
know
dry
what just happened.
gagged.
Every single person alive wishes they grew up on a farm.
Deep
Again, I
down.
mean, I'm dead serious.
Oh,
deep
yeah.
down, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, that's why they're so miserable in the cities, and they project so hard while they're happy, and how we're just slack-jawed redneck mouth
Mhm.
breathers is because they really
Flyover country.
it's their own misery they're projecting out because they live and breathe and operate their entire lives in a cubicle, whether it's a little micro loft apartment or their little office space. You know, yeah, you can go down the corner and get 5 or 10 different things of food, and maybe you go to a baseball game, but I mean,
That's what it was in New Jersey.
you're
for that
living in
week.
it's an open air prison.
Yeah.
It's an open air prison, but you know, there's no guards.
Maltvale.
Well,
Well,
okay.
and that's even the wealthy people.
Mm.
I mean, I built the house for the Oakley's guy down to Lake. It was mind blowing to him
Mhm.
to see a cow have a calf.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he would come, it just, and he's showing up in an AMG 500 to watch a cow have a calf.
It's one of the experience.
So picture your Montvale experience, Simon.
Oh my God. I had to hand. I couldn't drive
Mhm.
in that environment.
Oh, it's a different
is-
breed.
right. It's like driving. To me, the equivalency is like driving on a freeway, and every single person, right, that is driving a tractor trailer, a lorry,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
has the mentality of driving like a black cab driver around Piccadilly Circus.
So picture your city the town you were in where you walked 5 feet. Those are all the towns I grew up around. My hometown looks like Callaway though, but it's in
Wow.
New Jersey.
How about that?
Yeah, well, no, we were out in Hackettstown.
Okay, I know where
and
you're at.
absolutely beautiful
Yeah.
neck of the woods. But as soon as you start going east
Mhm.
on 80
Yep.
or 287, or what, and the madness begins as soon as you get on those corridors
Oh,
into New York.
I grew up on that, man. It's rough.
And you know, I was. Oh,
And is it still-
actually, I'm going to incriminate myself
is.
there, and I've had to step back. I'm sure people
man.
You
realize.
know you're in New Jersey if you get the finger and the horn the second you walk in.
Well,
yeah, I got
you're-
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Was it still mandatory full service at the gas stations?
It still
Yeah.
is.
How
couldn't
about that?
believe it.
Only state. It
I'm
drives me up the
we're
wall.
rocking in it. It was just like, what do you mean you're not getting out of the car?
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh, no, just give me a card.
that took me off
20
by
regular.
surprise the first time I went.
I
through
could
there.
never live in such environments.
It was the
Why do you think I
madness of
left?
driving, though.
Why do you think I left?
The zigzagging, and the faster the car, the worse it begot.
Mhm.
Right,
Mhm.
so you've got your real high end Beamers come screaming, your Audis,
Yep.
Your Mercs.
Mm-hmm.
They are zipping in and out, and I'm like, you're risking your life in your hands. If I was in my farm truck, I'd have run you damn well off the road
Yeah.
and done it deliberate. You know, I mean, it's just, how can you drive so irresponsibly at 85 miles an hour
to 0 and back to 85,
and then jumping in front of an 18-wheeler? I'm like, what are you doing? And then coming on your brakes. What do you think's going to happen?
Yeah, right. Where am
There's
I going?
exactly 2.5 counties in New Jersey that can be considered Appalachian because the mountains are there. And I grew up in the one that's a half a county.
Sussex?
On the border with it, Northern Passaic County.
Okay.
that was after the Appalachian region was expanded.
Yeah, so if you look at the ARC map, which I always will argue against because it leaves wonderful Appalachian Franklin County off, but allows travesties like Ohio to be considered Appalachian.
Well, the Appalachian region has been expanded over the years.
Also, where I grew up, it's a sub-range of the Appalachian Mountains called the Rampo Mountains.
Right.
But it's still part of, the physical mountain chain. So I
The
grew up...
geological mountain chain.
Exactly. So I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains, but not in Appalachia as we know it. But like, so my county,
that's all I needed.
my area is it's a lake community that used to be a weekend holiday thing, but it's also still a big farming community. You go up to Sussex County, like Simon said, farms everywhere. It looks, like Callaway, a little bit lower in elevation, but so that's where I grew up. And those are the areas I would consider in New Jersey to be Appalachian. But absolutely, you go 2 hours with traffic down the road, what should be a 20-minute trip, you're sitting in Newark or something like that, and it's a completely different world, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, technically, the Appalachian Mountains extend all the way up into Canada.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah. I would argue that,
but
that's part of the greater.
Well,
Appalachian
technically, they
Republic.
extend all the way into
Alabama,
Ireland, and Scotland, right? Or
They're the same.
Africa.
There's the same geological mountains there, and the Atlas Mountains in Morocco and Algeria are also part of the same original mountain chain.
But as far as when you think Appalachia, the Appalachia origin is not, from all the really.
I'll make this one argument, and we'll move on because I know we've chatted about it before. Everything that's happening to Appalachia as we know it today, southern Appalachia,
right,
happened 100 years ago in northern Appalachia, but instead of coal mines, it was iron mines. And when the iron mining industry disappeared, all them little iron mining towns, like my hometown, washed up and had to figure out how to make themselves better. Mine managed to do it because we were blessed with a couple of lakes, turned ourselves into a lake community.
And that part of Appalachia.
And I still left, so that should tell you all you need.
That settled by Scotch Irish? Who settled?
It was a mix of Scotch Irish,
German.
Yeah, the Germans,
Polish.
Pennsylvania Dutch. Not so much Polish. I want to say that there was a big Swedish influence up that way, actually. But specifically where I grew up, we have a little road in our town called Skyline Drive. When I get to the top of it, you can see the New York City skyline, but it take you 2.5 hours to get there.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm glad we're talking about this now because this is really going to propel us into the conversation I'm really excited to have here because we've tried to jump into it before. We talked about it, especially if you go back, like I said, and listen to our first show with Smokey. We really went into a discussion about the state of Appalachia, but that discussion was more centered around a free state of Appalachia on a more local basis. Basically, what he was prescribing was that a state of Appalachia, basically Southwest Virginia, break off. But the discussion I have here today is about a bigger, more expansive Republic of Appalachia. And real quick before we jump into it, since you are Smokey the Appalachistani, I just wanted to ask J.D. Vance.
Not Appalachian.
But he is making, but a lot of people are having the conversation because of him.
All right.
I give him Appalachian adjacent because his grandparents did grow up in Appalachia. And he spent those summers the same way we spent our summers. So I give him a little bit of a pass.
I'll be damned.
If you're going to call Kamala black, you have to call J.D. Vance Appalachian.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if that's the rules you're playing
Obama
by.
Big Mike.
Do you want to call him Appalachian?
Well, that's the thing about it.
question.
I don't care either way. But if he grew up with his grandparents being Appalachian and he grew up in that culture and kind of understands it, I know you always like to say just because you're poor doesn't mean you're Appalachian.
That's
but
true.
there is some overlap there in that Venn diagram. There is a bunch of correlation. Like our poorness in Appalachia is very much tied to the poorness in the Piedmont. It's just different industries screwed us over.
I'd sooner say that people in Ohio, in those very, very few narrow band along, the river, people that consider themselves Appalachian in Ohio are Appalachian. Thank you.
Well, we're gonna have to have that conversation
Before I ever agree that Mississippi is Appalachian, There is not a speck of dust in that state that I would consider Appalachia. I also like to say that Ohio is an Appalachian because it really pisses off the Ohioans, and they will spend days in my comment section. They're still going off on it from a post from 4 months ago.
It's almost as bad
That
as the
want
West
to be
Virginians.
Considered Appalachia.
Yeah, and they don't like that I don't.
It's almost as bad as the West Virginians when you tell them that Country Roads is about Virginia. They will spend 3 days.
And it is. I can see where those eastern edges of Ohio.
We're gonna get to it. We're
Yeah.
gonna get to it. But JD Vance, I mean, is he a net positive or a negative? I guess is.
So I will say this: that if people think of JD Vance and Appalachia, they're going to go onto Netflix because there's a movie about his book that he wrote. And I'll admit, I didn't read the book. I don't have enough time to sit there and read a politician's book.
Well,
But
before he was a politician.
he didn't write as a politician.
I know that, but nowadays he is.
Yeah.
But we did watch the movie recently.
I have
and
watched
the
it, haven't
entire
read it.
time. My wife goes, "Why does he consider himself Appalachian? This is clearly Ohio. The entire movie." So more vindication or validation that Ohio is an Appalachian. And I mean,
Well, I think a lot of people are also confusing hillbilly with Appalachia. When it's hillbilly elegy, they're just
Yeah.
in their minds going to, he must be Appalachian,
Yeah.
hillbilly.
you could be a
It's
hillbilly.
just
and-
cultural appropriation.
Sounds like it to me.
misappropriation.
Sounds like it to me.
It does rather.
What's his,
I'm rather known for it.
like what?
he's,
JD Vance,
his grandparents are from Kentucky.
Scotch, Irish,
I couldn't tell.
German.
He's originally a Bowman. I told you this.
Scott.
I know that his wife
Praise
is.
God.
So we could have our first German Baptist in the White
The
House.
thing I think that throws me off the most about JD Vance is anytime I look at him, he looks like he's wearing eyeliner. I know he's not. I just know that he's got that darker skin complexion, but he just looks like a man wearing eyeliner.
He's got a
and-
built-in gothic look.
Yeah, and and not like the type that sacked Rome either. So it's not that great.
I don't like Republicans, but in my opinion, he is light years above Eye Patch McCain.
Oh yeah, no.
A lot of those Republicans.
I also like the fact that he's not 80 fucking years old being like, I know what's best for the next generation. Like, no, grandpa, go sit down.
And-
I'll take a Marine's over anybody else's.
and not a politician. I mean, he just fresh got into politics, period.
Like Trump, his career, he was a career person, then became a politician, where the Democrats are politician career people. Like,
Oh,
they've
yeah.
never
Oh,
had
for life.
jobs outside of the government. They don't know what it's like to actually go out there and have a budget and pay people and to things, you know what I mean? Like, they're always given staff for these sort of things. They're always just put right into the machine.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the effects of that. But
Well, the only way I knew the name JD Vance, period, really, before, he came to the limelight recently was, well, my wife works for Norfolk and Southern.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, and I tell you, me and my wife, we watched the movie last year down at her parents' house. We were down there for the weekend or whatever, and that's when we had a chance to watch it. And my wife, she's much more moderate than I am. She's very laid back, more of a hippie-ish kind
soon
of
to be
type.
Dr. Riddle.
Yes. And I would get to walk around and tell everybody that I'm married to a doctor. How do you
There you
like?
go.
How do
There
you
you
like
go.
me now? Toby
Oh,
Keith in the background everywhere
no.
I go.
She's making your stock
Well,
rise.
that's
How
what
about
we-
that?
And Tara has Tara, honestly though, since we've been together and had kids and stuff, she's, politically speaking, came just much more into the kind of center where I'm at, especially focused on community and things like that. But even her watching the movie, she's like, I don't understand what all the outrage is about. The movie isn't
Yeah.
making fun of Appalachians. It is pointing at what is really happening. It's pointing at the ugly culture we have right now, the drug culture, the culture of the nuclear families being split up,
Yeah.
and that if you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you absolutely can make it. And that seemed to be the theme she gathered
Where
from
did
it.
your wife doctor come from?
What?
Where did your wife doctor come from?
Coal country.
One of the poorest
Yeah.
countries in Appalachia.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
I will
the
say
ground
this, the
zero
movie-
of the opioid crisis.
I will say this though, the movie did hit on the when he was going to like that job fair or whatever in DC, and everyone realized, oh, you're from Appalachia, and just like would start fucking with the hillbilly jokes immediately. That's the other thing. One of those Ohioans. As soon as I started saying that Ohio is an Appalachia, like, oh yeah, poorest school system on the country. I was like, oh, there you go. That's how I can tell you're not Appalachian, because
Well, also,
you're
I
going to
think
hit
that
on
was-
the
that-
school shit immediately.
That was also probably wrote in by somebody who has no idea that how, because we went up to
Yeah.
DC, it was nothing like that. Like, nobody would bust out the hillbilly jokes. They're generally interested
I
while we
have
were
heard-
here, but
Yeah. From friends that I'll occasionally reconnect with, like I won't say friends, I guess acquaintances from high school. Occasionally I'll reconnect with. They're like, "Oh, where are you living?" I'm like, "Oh, down in Appalachia, Southwest Virginia." They're like, what is there to do there? Like
Everything.
they're like,
Yeah.
do you have a nice double wide? I'm like, fuck you, I have a nice house. I got 9 acres of land. They're like, oh yeah, I got a studio apartment. I'm like, yeah, go fuck yourself.
I mean,
That's
what
the
can you-
mindset, though. That is the mindset.
Yeah, I mean, what can you do? You can get to a Chili's a little bit faster than I can. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't mind driving 30 to 45 minutes to get to a city to have a good evening. I don't need it 24/7.
I'll tell you what.
And we have cars these days. It's not like we have to take the horse and the buggy to get to the city. Yeehaw, boys, we went over the mountain tonight. It'll be a month and a half and we can make it back. No, we can be there in 20 minutes.
I can get listeria just as easily as they can from
Yes,
the same
that's
deli
right.
meat, and I did a
right.
couple of weeks ago. It
Oh,
was
no.
awful.
But yeah, if you're tuning in and you've been kind of paying attention to us on X and Instagram this week, myself, Smokey, and even Chip over here, Bill and Batarian to a certain degree, have all been kind of back and forth and sharing things, asking some questions about Appalachistani, we'll just call it for the sake of argument, which would be a free republic compromised of some aspects of the Appalachian Mountain region. And before we dive into how this works and the prospects of it, we need to kind of to figure out our boundaries and then again how we got to this point of view. And I think the second question will be the latter. The first one, I'll go ahead and say for boundary purposes, when I started the show, I said the reason I like the Appalachian podcast is because the Appalachian Mountains extend all the way up into Canada, all the way down to Alabama. And I firmly believe that if you were somebody who lives in those mountain ranges or within probably 30 minutes on either direction in either end, you probably do have some sort of mountain culture inside of you. Now, granted, our different cultures, there's different culture here than it is cold country, than it is the Smokies, than it is West Virginia.
Talk about
Than it
diversity.
is, yes, exactly. But we all have that little mountain thing. So when we're talking about what our borders should be, I say, if nothing else, it should extend north and south fully as long as there's mountains. Now, maybe we can go 15 to 20 miles out. Because I even know when you get to Pittsylvania County and some areas like that, like the culture is still very much the same, even if it starts flattening out just a bit. A lot of those people are back and forth to the mountains.
Well, like you said, Danville and whatnot, you get the people that aren't in the mountains, but you get people that have the same values, same speech patterns as us up here.
Yeah.
It's that adjacentness that I think I would go on the limb and include, Appalachian adjacent into, a greater Appalachian Republic if the U.S. government was ever like, yeah, go on about your merry business. We know they never will, but
Now, that would give us probably a good 30 miles into Ohio, follow along the entire Ohio River.
you know what? Highest tax rate in Appalachia, Ohio. I'd be fine with it.
But you know what? But I think it is a necessary evil because when we're talking about these
Yeah.
borders and whatnot, you need those. I mean, that's major access right there. The
Absolutely.
river floating down through that. You need to talk about that. So we'll say with that.
We got Lowry's. We don't need the river.
Lorries.
Lowry's.
Lorries. Oh dear. It's in the enunciation.
We'll take Appalachian adjacent things within probably, we'll say within 30 miles in either direction is something that can at least be considered for.
Yeah.
So how do we get to this point? What's this hypothetical? I mean, are we using a Soviet Union, no shots fired? We just all kind of peacefully go about our business and negotiate afterwards? Or I think that'd be the easiest one and probably get fewer
It's
agencies.
the most ideal of, having a national divorce, so to
Because
speak.
then we can just avoid the entire conversation of national divorce or fighting or Revolutionary War II, Civil War II, whatever, because nobody really wants that. I know there's a lot of these gung-ho people out there that like to talk about
Fatherless people.
bad.
my
You
friend.
don't want it. Most of
Don't
you are not
do
going to be able to handle it,
Yeah,
and it's
don't
an
do it.
ugly, ugly thing. Like I don't want these people dead. I just want them away from me and to leave me alone and do your own thing in your own communities, but don't expect me to do what you want and force me. And I won't do the same. I can offer you that. So I think it's good to avoid the conflict narrative. We can say we just got to this USSR and folded, and now we have been tasked. We're sitting around this table right here, and we are tasked with building the Republic of Appalachia. And we've discussed our border regions, which is basically anything within the mountain range that extends out 30 miles. So let's
You
talk.
just really can't create a republic of Appalachia.
It's why it's called a hypothetical. This is a thought exercise.
So, but why would you even call it a republic? I mean, why not just, I can understand creating another state, but you can't say
But-
the republic.
Well, Texas is trying to become its own country once again. They have a pretty good shot of making the legal, peaceful arguments. The Texas National Movement. Honestly, those are people I think that you should actually try and bring onto the show when they're not busy pushing Texas.
You don't need to create your own country.
Amos, this is a thought exercise. We're just doing it to have some fun.
I am thinking.
He brought a damn notebook.
Damn right.
That's why I went to the car and got mine. I was like, oh, Amos came prepared.
He showed up.
Because Texas is Texas, just like Appalachia's Appalachia.
Mhm.
They, I don't give a damn. At the end of the day, they're going to stick together.
Texas is a republic.
But it was the Republic of Texas before they
Indeed.
embarrassingly become a state.
They'd be a great
If they
trade.
had to do over, they'd be a great country. Appalachia can't be a great country
Why can't it?
because resources.
Well, that's why we're here to have this discussion, figure out how to get those resources and how to negotiate them. That's the idea. Like, there's tons of places out there that are landlocked or have different hurdles to get over that still manage to make it. We're just here to talk about those hurdles and have the hypothetical conversation.
Through local vote, you start locally and you
Hypothetically,
go after it.
You've got to put some parameters in there.
There does have to be a base board to follow.
Yeah.
Like, these are the rules that you have to follow. Essentially.
To me, it still stems down to the constitution that our forefathers put in place.
Mhm.
Now, as a federal government, under those rules
Most of it
that
should
they
be there.
set forth, they would be acceptable. You know, you have to have. I don't think you can operate as a republic in the truest sense of the word. So a state of Appalachia would be, I think, more fitting if we're prepared to accept the constitutionality of the principles of the federal government and the limited reach that the founding fathers had in mind. And I'd be more than happy to go down that road and have that discussion. I think discussing a republic is tantamount to something, and it's hypothetical, but it would be tantamount to sedition to be going down that road of, well, we need to establish a republic and we'll do this and we'll do that.
Can I ask a question? Is your policy this until Tuesday, and then after that you're allowed to have that conversation?
Well, yeah, I think that ball's in motion. I'm not quite sure how
I can say this as, someone that was born and bred in this country, is that I know two Brits that are more American than most Americans, and one of them is sitting right next to me right now. That's
Bless you.
Simon. He 100%, is an American citizen, and the piece of paper on the wall is just an official date saying when they thought it was, but we've known it for the second I walked in this cabin the first time ever.
Yeah, well, bless you for saying
Even
that.
though it's only water in this drink to make sure I get up the hill. Thank you, Jim, brother.
But I think that's the framework that we've got to put around this hypothetical discussion, is that we're still going to revert back to the constitutional foundings of this nation.
To be represented.
And to be represented. So let's have that hypothetical conversation bearing that in mind.
So are you saying that...
Do you see what I did there, Chip?
That was perfect. That was
All right.
beautiful.
So are you saying that in theory Appalachia could never become its own country because of previous law, previous cases dealing with states, having a national a secession, becoming their own country?
I think the practicality of being a landlocked republic
Mhm.
would be very problematic.
I mean, there's plenty, as a former European, you should know that there are several.
I was never a European.
That's all right. That is correct. You were never a dirty
Good distinction.
continental.
Yes, I was never
European off the
Au-
back porch. earlier.
Austria, Switzerland.
Well, that's what makes that's what makes this thought exercise much more interesting, is because we are landlocked. So now we have to think of a couple of ways. So what do we do here in this instance to make this work? Do we allow other places, or maybe a little bit further away than what our borders would care to be, but we offer them some kind of incentive to make sure we got use of this port?
We're still the majority transportation corridor for anything in the United States that goes.
Exactly.
to
Now, that's a
the
big,
coast.
massive
Absolutely.
freaking part of our favor.
Internally, I agree. But are we not talking now about being confederalists, right? Which as
No,
far
we're
as-
just assuming something like DC fell or something, like, okay, do it on your own. You can split it. You know what I mean? Like,
I'll
we've just
propose
been
a-
handed the opportunity. This is Sim Earth, United States style, whatever.
I'll make a proposal for this whole thought experiment. The United States government has decided that they can no longer sustain the United States as is, and they've allowed regional groups that, like Texas, for example, that think that they could become their own country to leave on peaceful terms with treaties in place that, hey, just because you're a new country tomorrow doesn't mean that we're going to go to war because you want, Appalachicola or something. If they let the greater Appalachian Republic, in air quotes, leave on friendly terms
Okay.
as a
But is that not confederalism?
I mean,
It is.
It is at a
really,
certain degree.
because I still think that the continent of North America, excluding Canada.
You can include them, the Canada, United States,
Well-
Mexico with the small s.
I still think that we have, and our duty is to the United States.
Okay.
And I still firmly believe that, because I stand behind the constitutional concepts.
Well, I'm not opposed to being still a part of the United States into some degree or fashion.
Exactly.
We all still have an alliance with each other. I'm not saying that all of a sudden everything in the Midwestern part of the country or the Deep South becomes an enemy. All I'm saying is this opportunity is more of an economically and geographical thing, and an opportunity to say, okay, come and basically within the
Like an
borders of this
autonomous
country,
region, I
basically
guess.
within the borders
Yeah.
of this country, build your ideal society with the groups of people you want to build it with, and see if you can bring it together. And this is where our
Right.
connection comes.
But is that perception not really from walking back where we are now to where we were, and having full states' rights? And within that states' rights, we can create an Appalachian state.
Well, I guess it depends on how you view the U.S. Do you view it under a compact theory or a federalist theory? The compact theory being the United States is a collection of societies. States preceded the Union and have separate liberties and existences of their own. That's why we should, in theory, call ourselves these United States, not
That's-
the United States.
And that actually comes back to, I've noticed recently a lot of people saying these United States,
Mhm.
rather than what's when someone says the United States, I automatically conjure up, you've been federalized
Mhm.
to a point where you don't accept state rights.
I think the United States came out of the early 20th century, the rise of nationalism around the globe. And, you have take Germany, for example, a relatively new country at that time, trying to come up with their own lore, so to speak, their own history as a united nation, even though up until the Franco-Prussian War, I think it was in the 1870s, maybe,
Mhm.
Germany was never a thing. There was, the German states, but they were never united.
Bit like the Italian states.
Exactly. Yeah.
Italy wasn't a country until very recently.
Mhm.
So I'm still harping back to the Constitution and the creation of these United
Mhm.
States. And that's a launching pad. And if we're going to go back, that's the launching pad we need to launch
But
from.
under the framework of the Constitution, there's nothing that prohibits creating a state out of multiple states.
As long as as long as the upcoming state, as long as the state, let's say Southwest Virginia wanted to become its own state, we'll use that as an example. If we wanted to become our own state and started to form our own legislature, we would need not only the permission of the state that we're being formed from, the Commonwealth of Virginia, we would also need the federal legislature to approve that final thing. That, historically, though, how it was post-Civil War was, hey, you've got this massive territory, we're carving off a piece, it is now
West Virginia.
Wyoming. Well, that was a little different.
Oklahoma.
Exactly.
So because this will be an event in my mind that, hypothetically speaking, we have to consider.
Mhm.
All right. So this isn't something that's going to be created by a kumbaya moment and everyone's going to agree.
Oh, yeah.
The divisiveness of the current legal system and how it's been corrupted will absolutely not allow that to happen. So if you're going to go hypothetical, you've got to consider what would make that happen. Now we're very much at that crossroads with, and we've already had offline discussions with some very intellectual insider people that are deeply concerned about the financial crisis, the collapse of the dollar, and the collapse of multiple, when I say hundreds of small banks, that are under massive financial stress testing. There could be the de-dollarization, the petrodollar crashing, BRICS taking over. All of these things are financial.
It's taking. Oh, bricks.
BRICS.
I thought you said Brits because,
Oh,
the
no.
police commissioner.
No, well, that idiot.
I was about to say, that's more of a thought experiment.
Yeah,
we're
let's
doing.
leave that. I think I've been caught in a couple of traps on that one. Or even worse, because what we have now with 4 carrier groups in the Mediterranean and the Middle East, if this isn't a setup for World War III, I don't know what is.
Mhm.
You've got, Tehran doing their thing. We the whole Ukraine thing, us pushing long range missiles that can strike Russia, a red line being drawn by Putin. I mean, we are on the brink of World War III and a cataclysmic World War III. So if we were to use either of those collapse scenarios as to how will we recover from that and come up with a state of Appalachia under the constitutional mindset of what our founding fathers envisioned, I think that would be a launch point to have this discussion. So, there's going to be a couple of trigger points that will set something in motion. We're not going to do this politely, and it's going to require a cataclysmic event for this creation to happen.
Isn't Appalachia known for that?
But at the end of the day, though, I don't
Yes.
think that's more semantical than anything. I think I just want to get to the point to we start considering what we should expect, what we shouldn't expect, things to that degree. And I guess the first big question is, if we set the border regions as we stated, just look, if you touch the Appalachian Mountain, south to north, within 30 miles outside, we can kind of consider it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if these 3 places, but when it comes to economics and commerce, and this is why some of my big questions on X this week were allowing 3 separate cities, and I'll tell you why I selected these 3. Because one, I think, I know everybody got mad when I suggested it, because in your Appalachian utopia, you don't expect cities, you don't think city. But at the end of the day, economically speaking, you absolutely need them. You need a place for a large percentage of the population to be able to go and learn things and share culture and spread culture. Like, cities aren't, I guess maybe they are inherently a bad thing, but they don't necessarily have to be. Like, you can turn them into great places. And I thought about these 3. I said, well, Pittsburgh, it kind of does fall really close within the mountains either way. It's got major access to rivers coming in and out. It's a steel city.
It's at the forks of the Ohio.
Yes.
A war, the First World War was
Major
started over it.
navigable routes.
Strategically speaking,
Several,
it hands
yeah.
us up there in the north. It takes care of that aspect of things. Like I said, it becomes a cultural center. You don't want rural areas. You don't want every single rural area to become a Roanoke. You want a lot of the rural areas to stay rural, have a few Roanokes, and have a few Pittsburghs.
How would you feel if tomorrow Callaway was to become, the next Pittsburgh? Would you want to still
They
live in
fucking
Callaway?
haven't.
Or would you want to fucking
I mean, you
leave?
wouldn't want Callaway to become the next Boone's Mill.
Well, that's what I'm
you know
saying.
what I mean?
Ain't fucking happening.
That's what I'm saying, though, is
That's why we need
I
cities.
agree with the city argument because you
they're
don't
a
want
necessary evil.
your small town. I don't want, my section of Floyd County to become the next Roanoke. I'd leave in a fucking heartbeat if I could.
No, you want to be able to keep the integrity of the land as much as you possibly, and that's not a hippy dippy thing to do. That's because the land gives us so much.
Absolutely.
It protects us, it feeds us, it helps us breathe. So you want to be able to protect the land as much as possible. So you do need cities, you need cultural centers, you need hubs where traffic can get in and out, where ships, airplanes, and things of that nature. And I think as far as the North's concerned, and honestly, you could probably maybe make a few exceptions. Maybe there's another city up north. Cincinnati may fall in that because they are 30 to 45 minutes.
To Ohio.
And it's along the Ohio River. And if we all
Yeah.
give along the Ohio, I mean, but it's worth consideration. But I think Pittsburgh makes the most sense out of all of them. We don't, without having too many, because you do want to.
There need to be administrative centers.
Yes, absolutely.
But that therein lies a problem, because look what DC has become, and Northern Virginia. So their political influence over rural Virginia has been so imbalanced, it's ridiculous.
So I think part of that, though, is let's say I'm going to throw these stipulations out because this is what I've been kind of running with in my head all week, is that Appalachia became its own independent country, but we're on very friendly terms with the United States, kind of like the U.S. in Canada right now. Not thought of as an enemy at all unless you're Michael Moore making Canadian bacon. So let's take, for example, we have our own country now. We need to kind of decide what path forward we want to make. Do we want to make a one-off direct copy of the modern federal United States government, or would we prefer to keep power and authority vested locally with a smaller federal, or I won't say federal, national legislator that kind of more acts as a kickstand to, assist local and state economies and kind of arbitrate, like the original goal of the federal government.
Is that not really falling back on states' rights?
Well, it does, because I think honestly, the more local your government authority is, the more free society.
Decentralizing DC, to go back to what we're currently seeing, decentralizing DC away from getting our senators back, getting our congressmen back to represent, the state that they represent, rather than being
a part-time resident of their state and a full-time resident,
of DC, and corrupted by all the special interest groups and lobbyists. Decentralize.
Well, so I don't know if you had seen it, but somebody posed an idea which I actually like a lot. For, let's say we had that national government, that every 4 or 6 years when a different state within your new country hosts the federal legislature.
We're gonna get to that. We're going to get to that part of it. Let's not jump ahead, because that's a really interesting concept. Okay. I do want to talk about that. And I want Hezekiah to be in here when we talk about that. Because we've had I've had this conversation so many times with him, and he gets so animated about it, and he's not here to have it. He's got to step outside. And what do you think he does when he steps outside? Because if he shakes it more than twice, he's playing with it.
Well, who knows? But again, it goes back to a number of conversations
earlier.
that I've been vocal about. Is under the current system, we need to revert back. Again, it's always reversing back, right, to the original framework. If we were to revert back to having senators appointed by governors, that would be a massive step for states.
We're going to get there too, because the government's going to be the next segment. I wanted to get in the cultural centers and the economic strongholds first before we got to that, because y'all were thinking ahead. You didn't even know what we were going to talk about. You're already getting there where we need to be.
Oh, I would agree, though, including Pittsburgh, if you could, not only just for the river access to it.
They're a very blue collar city.
I've been in the area of Pittsburgh plenty of times. I've never felt, besides the fact that I'm in a city and I don't like cities, I never felt like I was outside of the mountains. I mean, as disgusting as the city of Asheville is, I never felt like I was out of the mountains in there, even though I watched plenty of homeless people take a deuce in downtown parks there.
Wow.
But your other two cities, on the other hand.
Yeah, so Pittsburgh, I think maybe we can agree on. Maybe Pittsburgh would probably be in the Appalachian Republic. It's necessary. These other two, I'm going to make a case for them, and that's why I need y'all to critically think about this. We'll go the first one. I'm going to say Nashville. Nashville is... Hey, folks, that is the end of part 1 to our Republic of Appalachia show, and we wanted to thank you all for tuning in. It's pretty wild. We recorded this show actually a few weeks before the hurricane hit. It was the last show we recorded before I took a break for my wife having our third child, Simon, heading up to New York for his cancer treatment. So given everything that's happened since we recorded the show, I'm really interested in a lot of your feedback. So please, after you listen, comment on the link, share, whatever you can. If you want to listen to the show in its entirety, go ahead and go to our Patreon at patreon.com/GetOnTap, and for only $10 a day, $3 a month minimum, you get shows like this in its entirety early. Our after shows, when we start those back up, and a lot of the things we're going to be doing here in the near future are going to be bringing our subscribers along for the ride. You can also subscribe over at X now, which is a new feature. Same deal, $3 a month. Do it for Dale. A little bit different over there. Over there, we can have subscriber-only spaces, posts, comments, things to that nature. But we'll find ways to integrate both people or both subscriber bases. So hopefully at some point in time we find a way to mingle them up. But for the time being, it's just how it is. So you get a little bit different on each, but no less. The ultimate is supporting us and what we're doing here and trying to build the Appalachian region, now obviously back up in Western North Carolina and Southwest Virginia, a place many of us call home. So We appreciate everybody tuning in. Once again, patreon.com/getontap to listen to the full episode. Otherwise, it'll be out next week. Thank you for joining.
I hang in there with a rowdy crowd. I drink too much and I laugh too loud. That's just me. That's how I'll always be. I roll my own every now and then. I love a good buzz with a few close friends. That's just me. That's how I'll always be. Won't hear me beg, I'm a bit too proud. I work my ass off with everything that I have. So let's take a drink, baby, raise your glass. This is for the few country boys like me that we still have. Hard work won't go unseen. I'm a big fan of chasing your dreams. That's just me. That's how I'll always be. The road to the top, it ain't no easy climb. But if you love what you do, I believe you'll be fine. That's just me. That's how I'll always be. Won't hear me beg, I'm a bit too proud. I work my ass off with everything that I have. So let's take a drink, baby, raise your glass. This is for the few country boys like me that we still have. That God and Mama are your two best friends, but most of the time I don't listen to them. That's just me. That's how I'll always be. And I wait at the gates when it's my turn to fly, but I'll still raise hell until the day that I die. That's just me. That's how I'll always be. Won't hear me beg, I'm a bit too proud. I work my ass off with everything that I have. So let's take a drink, baby, raise your glass. This is for the few country boys like me that we still have.